Welcome to Excuse Me Doctor with Dr. Melissa Clarke. Unfortunately, you're with the producers, LILA Mays and Wayne Bruce.
Hello.
And Dr. Clarke isn't here today. We've taken over the show.
It's a takeover. It's a producer takeover.
It's a producer takeover. This is the best of. This is a best of show. So we want to bring you into today's show. Dr. Clarke is on...
She's on a bit of a hiatus, a wellness hiatus. Yes.
Wellness hiatus. That's it. And while she's on the wellness hiatus, her husband is taking care of her totally. He's probably the best. He's probably the best husband of mankind.
I mean, she actually is calling you her hero.
Wow.
So there's that, right?
Right.
Mel doesn't throw around words, you know what I'm saying, that she doesn't mean. So I heard her call you a hero.
Did you actually heard that?
I heard it myself.
Wow. That's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing.
Listen, so before we jump into it, I do get to publicly acknowledge you just for being who you are. So yeah, thanks for taking care of my girl.
Thank you so much. So everybody, I want everybody to come in. Actually, we have a message from her. We actually have a tape message from her, and we're going to get to that message. We're going to go back. We're going to go back to like the earliest of the first show. So I want to take everybody back to the first show, and we're going to wrap up through some things that we found that are interesting. Thank you, Angela Joe. Thank you. So subbing for a doctor is really, I feel a lot of pressure here. I really
You do?
Yeah, man. I mean, she's a doctor.
I know we're not, but listen, we're not taking Mel's place. We're just producing in front of the camera tonight. The best of, that's it.
Just the best of. So, I mean, she has done an amazing job in this show. Let me tell you how this show started. This show started because she was angry at the TV. She was angry actually watching the administration not tell all the truth. I'm going to put that mildly. She thought there were certain inconsistencies in what was going on. So she wrote a post and posted it. And in 2 days, it was shared 200 times. And so from there, I mean, she was an author already. She was an author of, Excuse Me, Doctor, I've Got What? So, I mean, Excuse Me, Doctor, I've Got What? So you can find that. You can find that on Amazon and a few other places as you watch, taking ownership of your health and navigating the healthcare system. Find that on Amazon and so, you know, you gotta go get that book because that book is like who she is. So we're gonna ask LILA to cut down
my watch party.
Your watch party in my ears. So, because I was here myself 2 or 3 times, so we're going to ask you to cut that down. But remember, go to Amazon and wherever digital books, there's digital downloads of it. Excuse Me, Doctor, I've Got What? Taking ownership of your health and navigating the healthcare system. And you will find Dr. Melissa Clarke. But we have a word from her today, but I really want to take you back. I think we're going to jump right into the clips. We're not going to be here like, you know, Mel she will go all night. But we're going to jump right back into the clips. And this is a short clip. I want to show you how it all started.
And get in the room. In the meantime, welcome to my office. Over the next 30 minutes, hopefully this will be a safe space where we can get our questions answered and really kind of try to make sense of this unprecedented time in our history, in our lives, and these uncharted waters that we're kind of trying to make sense of with all the changes that have been in our personal lives and in society because of COVID-19.
Wow. And we're back.
That's where we started.
That's where we started. That's where it all started from. And from her writing that post and then coming on, because she wasn't feeling well on Saturday. We actually were supposed to do the show on a Saturday, and she wasn't feeling well. And on Sunday, she said, I'm gonna go live tomorrow. And she took her iPad and my iPad and went live with it. And we've been here ever since. We missed a couple of weeks, but this past 3 weeks have been so she could take her medical hiatus, or and really get herself back up at top strength and really focus on health and the health of her viewers. So and then we start adding people. So we went to the West Coast and added 2 people. Our brand manager, Rhoda Lawrence, who will not get on camera, and then we added another producer who has been our friend for a great number of years, and that's how we came up with LILA May.
Hey,
the amazing LILA.
Hi.
So, Li,
yes.
Let's start. Where are you in this situation? What do you want?
I think you got into it so well. Like, I think it's really important to just, since we're doing a producer takeover, to kind of give the people the history of how this started. And listen, the pandemic has been an opportunity for people to create content and do a new thing, and we were able to do that, but with really, really important information. Melissa is a trusted voice. She knows what she's talking about, and so we all felt like it was really important. And I'm so glad that it just really happened organically. Like you just said, Rhoda joining the team, me joining the team. It all happened really organically. Like, one of us made a flyer, somebody else had an idea about this, and that's how the team was created. But Wayne and I really felt like it was important for us to come before the people tonight, because this has been a big weekend, right? It was a really, really big weekend. And we have been on hiatus for a couple of weeks, but we definitely didn't want to miss an opportunity to just kind of rub elbows with the people after such a big weekend. And just kind of go back through time and pull the best of what we think are some of the best moments from Excuse Me, Doctor, which actually started as Real Talk. We wanted to pull some of the best of, and it's information that's still completely important and useful even today.
Still completely important and useful. So she started this so she has a message. So she made a message tonight. So, because she's excited also about the vaccine trial. So we're going to wait for a few more people. And I hate when people say that. We're going to wait for people to come into the room. And
we need a few more people to come on in, though.
Because she going to break this vaccine development down for you today. So I want you to do that. So we're going to go to one of my favorite episodes. In June, the whole world turned upside down.
Yeah.
I think with the death of George Floyd, cast such a pall over the country.
Yeah.
But it turned the whole world on its ear.
It really did. It really did.
It touched her, and what happened in that, and this is how the universe works, is that you had a friend who was the congressperson in Minnesota for the district,
the community.
In the community where George Floyd lost his life and he was murdered by those police officers.
Yeah.
So we got him on the show, and he and Mel spoke the same language.
Totally
the same language.
It's one of the best.
Him and Dr. Mel. I'm never going to call her Mel on screen. So he and Dr. Mel spoke the same language. And this is from a June 8th episode. Introduce him, Lila.
Senator Jeff Hayden.
Senator Jeff Hayden, Dr. Melissa Clarke.
Every $1 we spend on the police, we should spend $3 in the community, right? Yes. We should get at the things you're very familiar with. Social determinants of health is kind of the buzzword, and we talk a lot about it. I'm sure on your shows and others, you tell people it's like 90%, unless you're predisposed or genetically, is really what you put in your body, right? That you then have to deal with when your patients come to see you.
Or that you're exposed. I always say only about 20% of health has to do with what happens in your doctor's office. 80% of it has to do with where you live, where you work, where you play, and all those things are called the social determinants of health. Whether you have transportation in your neighborhood, whether you have childcare available to you, whether there are jobs in your community. And what people really have been missing from the dialogue is the fact that racism is a social determinant of health.
Well, absolutely. And I sent you a document way back in 2014 that spoke. I think we were one of the first states that spoke and put in an actual document, a government document, the Minnesota Department of Health, that said that structural racism is a social determinant, that it is a contributing factor to one's health. The problem, though, we have is that we identified it, but we didn't do anything about it. Right. And so now it's about actionable operational items to say. We have a great research community. The University of Minnesota is well known. It's a big land-grant university and a lot of private universities that go with it, and a great state college system. But we now have to put that in effect. We have to now say, we've identified the problem, but here's what we need to do now. So that process is starting. And so back to your question about defunding, I think it is really about asking us, what do we need? What does law enforcement look like to us? And when we expect for you to protect us, not put your boot on our neck or on our back or to shoot us, right?
Woo.
Man, look. So, I mean, what an important clip to me. That was one of the most important shows that we have done. And like you said, just divine that we had to connect to the senator in that district who was more than happy to come on the show and talk about it. But that clip about the social determinants of healthcare is hugely important, is so much a part of the work that Dr. Mel does. I didn't even know Senator Hayden had such a wealth of knowledge about that, but that's his life's work as well, like writing, doing this work around healthcare in the community. So I think that's one of the more important conversations, not more important, but certainly one of the most important conversations that we can have in this climate. Yes.
It was an incredible question. It was incredible he was talking not about defunding the police so much, and that turned into a buzzword, but it started in his district.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Mel, he wanted people to understand it was not about taking money from the police, but really about adding budget to the things that determine our health care, our health wellness. And if George Floyd, Mr. Floyd would have had some of those things, maybe he doesn't eat at the Chinese restaurant or the fast food. I don't know if it was Chinese or not. The fast food restaurant that he was eating at. Maybe he doesn't go there that day.
Yeah.
But, it's one of those things. Down that line, we come later in the year and they start talking about getting a vaccine together. We start all these vaccine development things. And then black people say, we're not testing us, right? Wasn't that African Americans in the community, black people in the community were like saying, you're not going to test us. We're not going to be the test dummy.
Right. And more the sentiment I heard more than anything was just around, Tuskegee and we're not going to be another experiment, etc. So yeah, that was hugely the sentiment in the Black community.
It was around Tuskegee. It was around what happened to our brothers and sisters in Baltimore, being tested and used for different type of tests. I think that having our next guest on, and we share a name, but he's the deputy mayor of Washington, D.C., Wayne Turnage, kind of dispelled some of that myth. And he actually registered for vaccine trials. So you have someone at the top of the food chain in Washington, D.C., an older Black male who has pre-existing conditions.
Yeah.
And he was tired of seeing people that look like him lose their life to a disease. So I'm going to play a clip on why he joined the vaccine trials, and then I'm going to come back to Tuskegee. All right? Here we go.
The trials. I believe that you've decided to enroll in one of the clinical trials. Can you tell us why you decided to do that?
There were a couple of reasons. The first is the one you've already stated. I was well aware of the statistics that indicate this virus is having a disproportionate impact in both its infection rate and its death rate on minority communities. I was equally aware that minority communities are underrepresented in the trials, and particularly minorities that have underlying conditions. The third reason was really a sense of, I would almost call it a sense of duty that was developed by sitting on my couch and watching news show after news show of the tremendously brave physicians, nurses, other medical staff, even the support staff in the hospital battle this virus, particularly in its early stages when it was ravaging New York City. And I just decided that I needed to do something that I contributed more to this situation than just my opinion. So I did my own research and decided that, especially given the fact that I am a minority and I have underlying health conditions that put me at a very high risk for a potentially fatal outcome if I get infected, that I thought it was important for me to do this.
Great. Thank you so much for deciding to do this. I want to underscore something you said, which is that this clinical trial, unless minorities are enrolled in the clinical trial phase, the conclusions from the clinical trials won't be valid across all populations. And that's true. Again, you mentioned people with underlying health conditions. We know the elderly. Everybody has to be represented, especially those groups that are disproportionately affected by the virus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Once again, Dr. Mel with the win.
For sure.
For sure. Dr. Mel actually telling us exactly that we needed to sign up for the trial because the vaccine wouldn't help us if we didn't sign up for the trial.
Right.
So if you don't sign up for the trial, you don't help your situation. We don't get out of this.
Which, just speaks to a much bigger conversation about African Americans and our fear and distrust, right? It's a much larger conversation. But listen, you got to be in it to win it, right? That's the only way. I mean, you're not going to win the lotto if you don't play. You can't be represented if you don't want to be represented. So either we represent ourselves or we're not represented. We can't have it both ways. And disclaimer, we're not forcing a vaccine down anybody's throat. I want to be crystal clear about that.
No.
However, in the trials, we have to be a part of the show for it to be effective.
Exactly. If we don't show, we don't show.
Right.
If we, you know, you can either be happy in the trials or be happy out of the trials. But we should be happy. Trust me, if we're not represented in these trials, the vaccine will. Well, I don't even want to get into it because Dr. Mel, we have a clip from Dr. Mel, right? I'm getting some more people on. We're going to go to why we distrust. Let's go to why we distrust. One of the main things that everybody likes to throw up is the Tuskegee Experiment.
Yep.
And really, what did
which
you
is
hear?
So out of context anyway. But
it speaks to the distrust of government, right? It speaks to the distrust of government. But how it's done, they're not going to shoot me up like they did, you know, the Tuskegee Experiment people. They're not going to shoot me.
That's not exactly what happened.
That's not what happened.
That's not what happened.
You obviously got your information on Facebook. Obviously.
And God bless you.
And God bless you. But let's once again, we're going to go back to Wayne Turnage, the Deputy Mayor of Health and Human Services for the District of Columbia, your nation's capital. And he's a history buff. So listen to him talk about Tuskegee Experiment.
To the Tuskegee study, thinking that the Tuskegee study had something to do with people being injected. Can you clear that up for us, please?
Yeah, I think that's a big misperception about the Tuskegee study, which was, I don't make any excuses for the horrific nature in which that study was conducted, but they did not inject men with syphilis. Basically, they did an environmental scan of the community and found, I think it was 600 men for the study. And these men were already infected with syphilis, and the unethical treatment of those men came with the decision by the researchers who were working for the Tuskegee Institute to not inform the men that they were infected with syphilis, and they just followed them for I think 35 years to sort of see what the ravages of syphilis would be. And even when they found a treatment for syphilis, they failed to tell. They refused to tell the men who were infected, and it cost some of them their lives. It certainly resulted in some of these men infecting their spouses, and it was just a terrible thing to do. But it didn't involve the injection of syphilis. That doesn't make it. That would have made it a lot worse, obviously, but it certainly doesn't make it much better, given the way the study was conducted. And so I've seen research that says, at the time that before the syphilis, before the scandal was exposed, the gap in health outcomes between Black and white men was declining, actually. That they were closing the gap. We were closing the gap. And when that study was released, or when the whistleblower went public, they had a chilling effect on the health-seeking behavior of Black men. And as a result, there are some studies that indicate that probably about 30% of the current health gap is due to the lingering effects of the Tuskegee Institute study, which is just awful.
Amazing.
And I think far too many of us, people, period, didn't know the whole story. Just have kind of run with the Tuskegee, experiment all this time, thinking that that Black men were actually injected with syphilis, and not understanding the entire experiment. So really, really a great point to highlight. Do your research. And this is no shade, but we have all of these tools at our fingertips. We can find the information. There's no reason that we can't find accurate information. It's out there.
It is.
It is.
It's out there, accurate information. So with that being said, I think, like I said, one of the reasons she did this whole thing was because we were in a pandemic. I mean, we're still in a pandemic.
We are still.
We're not doing good.
Nope.
Still. So she added things. People had all these Facebook conspiracy theories and stuff that is out there. And so she started adding things to get the truth out in the show. So she wanted to debunk theories, Facebook theories and interwebs. The interwebs are constantly working, twittering and different theories. And so she came up with the weekly debunk. And we have an old debunk. Do we have an old debunk? Yeah, we have an old debunk that I'll show you how the debunk used to look because I erased the new debunk. Sorry. Here we go.
And our weekly debunk this week, I heard that the reason we have more cases is that we're testing more. And you know who we heard that from? Well, let's talk about that. So yeah, we are testing more. We finally have ramped up. We are 5th in the world in terms of the amount of testing we're doing per our population, right? So you've heard, oh yeah, we're number 1. We're doing the most tests out of anybody in the world. No, that's not true. We're 5th in the amount of testing we're doing per population. The United Arab Emirates, the UK, Russia, they're all ahead of us, right? So if indeed, we were getting more cases because we were testing, you would expect that the amount of people testing positive would stay constant or maybe even go down. But we're actually seeing the number of cases of people testing positive, the percent who are testing positive is going up, up, up. In Florida, I think it's something like 1 in 4 people who are testing positive for coronavirus who get tests. So that totally debunks that theory that our cases are rising because we're testing more. No, our cases are rising more because there are more cases, because more people are going out, more people are spreading the disease and the infection in their communities. And that's one of the reasons why we're getting more cases. So that is our weekly debunk.
And there you have it.
Kind of like, we're about to get super political. Maybe I'll.
Can we get political when she's
Yeah, we can. We're the producers.
No,
sure.
We're the producers. Come back and see her show.
Yeah, more cases because of testing. Like,
who said that?
The same person who's saying stop the count. Because he'll win if we stop.
Don't count the cases. Don't count the cases, and we won't have
this many if we stop testing.
Wow.
Actually read, one of my girlfriends said today, and she's in Detroit. I believe she's in Detroit.
We just lost about 15 people. We just lost our only 15 people.
Sorry.
As soon as we went to that.
You got political.
I'm telling you, come on back.
Y'all come on back.
Dr. Mel has a word for you. But go ahead.
Well, one of my girlfriends in Michigan was saying that there were schools that were open near her, and they've gone back to homeschooling, obviously, because the cases are spiking.
Cases are spiking.
Duh.
What did you think was going to happen?
Did you think was going to happen?
We don't have anything to protect us from this. So if you're close to people, and I have to say, Dr. Melissa was the first person I heard say, wear a mask.
Without question. She was one of the first who...
Before the CDC and anybody else came up with that, she said, wear a mask. Thank you. Wow. See?
You saw that about yourself, didn't you?
I saw something about myself. I had to put it up. Mateo Levine Ledesma You and Lenny, happy anniversary. It's your anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Hey, man, love is love. And we love you. So he is a fantastic nephrologist in the Los Angeles area. So
oh, fantastic.
He is there. So we love them. Can't hear Wayne. Can't hear me?
Uh-oh.
You sure? Nobody can hear me? Wow. How do we do that?
I don't know.
I guess I got to turn on my mic. Can you hear me now? I can't hear Wayne. My mic is testing like it's good, though. I'll tell you that.
It is. It's real strong in my ear. real strong.
I'm going to turn it up. Thank you,
Janet.
Janice,
thank you. Okay, all right.
Janice.
Thank you, Mateo.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
I
Max
don't know.
Gregory.
He needs a new computer.
Get your sound up.
Get your weight up, sir. Thank you, Angela. Max Gregory. Monet.
Thanks, y'all.
Monet. Hey,
thanks,
how
y'all.
are you? How are you? Thanks, y'all. So look.
Listen, I was going to say, we thought we were having a real good show. Y'all can hear and everything.
Right. So it all started from the not testing guy.
Yes.
But, you know, Dr. Mel, the great thing about Dr. Melissa Clarke is and one of the things that when I first met her, I'll tell the story one day of her taking care of my mom and my mom meeting her for the first time ever in a hospital. So I'll tell that story one day when you guys have time in the next producer show. But one of the things she always breaks down, she always cares about her patients. And so she wanted to have an episode with people who had COVID. And here's where Divine, it comes in. We've all been touched by this. We call some of our friends. I called my cousin who had COVID in New York, that strain. We called a friend of ours, very close friend, actually our goddaughter's mom. She had COVID in North Carolina. And thank you, Marv West. I'll try to sound like Marv West one day. And then LILA, you had a close friend of yours.
Good friend.
Eric Stearns, in the Los Angeles area. And he got it. And he has underlying conditions severely. And we're going to go to Eric. I'm not going to play the most emotional clip because he was very emotional. We all were. I think we were all crying. But Eric Stern explains what it was like when he got COVID.
And our other producer is going to play that clip in just a moment. It looks like we are having just a little bit of a technical difficulty. So when Wayne pops back, he'll play that clip.
And that was dramatic. And I completely see. Dr. Mel needs to come back soon. Eric Stern, when he got COVID, explains what happened.
I want to jump right into it, and I'm going to start with Eric. Eric, can you tell us, how did COVID-19 show up in your life?
Like a hurricane.
Wow.
It started, strangely enough, with a pain in my neck, on the left side of my neck, but it wasn't a sore throat. It felt muscular. And I shrugged it off. The next day, that pain went kind of transferred to my whole body, and with debilitating body aches. And I assumed it was the flu, so I went straight to my bed. It continued for a couple of days, and my wife insisted I go get checked for COVID. I'm a 59-year-old asthmatic, so I thought I fit the criterion. I went to the hospital, and they would not test me.
Wow.
They said my symptoms weren't serious enough. I ended up going to another hospital, and they would not test me. So I went from that hospital right to my bed again. And then let me just say I was sick for 7 weeks total before I started feeling 100%.
Wow.
So I got all the symptoms that people read about. I had fever, I had diarrhea, I didn't eat for 2 weeks. I had delirium, I was hallucinating. Um, it was a really kind of, not to overstate it, but it was a really horrible situation.
Wow, that certainly sounds like you had probably the worst of the symptoms. And you're saying that you never got hospitalized.
No,
I know at
I
one
was
point
defiant
you,
about that. I was afraid to go to the hospital, frankly, because in mid-March, when I contracted it, there was way too much ambiguity about treatment. And as ridiculous as it sounds, I felt like that's what all the sick people were. So I was having some breathing difficulty to the point where my wife came into my room. She said my lips were blue. But being an asthmatic, I have experience with prednisone. I've been an asthmatic for a long time. So I ended up taking some prednisone, and I think that really helped me. I wasn't having extreme difficulty by my standards of asthma. So I just toughed it out. And it was, I mean, I could not walk up a flight of stairs. I was going from my bedroom to the bathroom, and that's essentially it for a month.
Wow. So, yeah, so Eric is a really good friend of mine, and I didn't know that Eric was sick until after he recovered. Um, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic breaking, and so everybody was sort of in this crazed state and just trying to figure out working remotely and are your family members okay and things like that. And then once he recovered, he started reaching out and telling us that he had been sick.
Wow.
Eric's story was so powerful, and you mentioned this before we went to the clip. We were all crying, but I remember when we were all crying in our tech-in, like
Right.
when we were
Wow.
getting the cameras and the lights and the mics and stuff together before we ever went live, a day before actually. Eric shared with us that at one point he was lying in the bed and he said to himself, he said he giggled and he was like, am I dying?
Am I
Is that what
dead?
this is? Yeah,
Is
am I
this?
dead?
Am I dead? Is
Am
this
I
what this is?
dead?
Is this how it
What is
ends?
happening?
And he said, I think the thing that got us in that was, he said when he thought he was dead, he just realized he needed to come back for his daughter.
For his child, yes.
And there, I'll start
Yeah.
crying thinking about it, because the thing that brought him back from the dead, and in all essence, that man should have been dead.
Yeah.
When he went through, was his daughter. And Eric Stern, he is a hero of mine because he wanted to live. And I think
Yeah.
his daughter gave him the final shot, not anything else, but his daughter was the final chip that pushed him over for him wanting to live.
And oh, by the way, his wife had it as well.
Oh, by the way,
And
his mother-in-law
had it.
who was 80 years old, right?
Everybody was sick. Yes. Yeah.
His mother-in-law had it. So, I mean, if I think about it long enough, I'll start to get emotional about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think back to that tech in and him wanting to live.
Yeah.
And so with that, should we leave Dr. Mel for the end of the night? Yeah. You want to leave her words for the end?
Yeah, why not?
We're the producers. We could do that.
Okay.
So everybody stick around.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Y'all go get your folks. Tell them to
go
come
get
and
your
listen.
folks.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Mel has a word.
She had
for
a word.
She got a word for you. That's what it is. So with everything going on now, as everybody could see, I'm in the entertainment business.
No.
Whoa. I'm a musician first, have turned into a producer second. And I see Jocelyn. Before I go to this, I see I've lost 2 relatives from COVID-19 this summer.
Yeah.
We are sorry.
We're sorry to hear that.
Very sorry. So you have our prayers from the producers at Excuse Me Doctor. I'm quite sure you know Dr. Mel, and she feels the same way. So anybody who's taken a loss, and for all those people who have lost their lives, my condolences, and I am very sorry. In entertainment, we've taken so many hits. We lost so many great jazz musicians. I can think of Wynton Marsalis' father, Ellis Marsalis, passed. Wallace Roney, incredible trumpet player, jazz trumpet player. I can think of the bounce DJ in New Orleans who's passed. Young and old, we've taken a hit. So we wanted to talk to people in the industry who do what we do, who are the promoters, who basically serve to you your entertainment, and see how it was going. And we had five people with venues with us. But the next clip is from Greg Odell, who was part of the District of Columbia's task force to reopen. And he runs DC events, which is, if you're going to have a convention in town or anything, a lot of times the major conventions are through DC events. And he's actually in the process for bidding for the World Cup for 2026. Right. So we had Greg Odell, and he'll talk next about events. Listen up.
So, as co-chair of one of the reopened DC subcommittees and president and CEO of Events DC, I know you have like a 10,000-foot view of changes in the entertainment industry here in DC. Can you just talk about how the pandemic has affected the entertainment industry in DC, including hotels and restaurants that also sort of depend on large concerts and events and conventions happening?
Sure. Well, unfortunately, it's been a monumental change for all of us, and arguably our industry was the first to close, and unfortunately, we'll probably be the last to open. Mass gatherings, as it's been proven, really probably are likely to increase the spread more than any other activity. And so, I've been fortunate to work closely with the mayor, as you mentioned, on the Reopen committee, and that was really to look at all the different sectors that had venues and had mass gatherings. So it ranged from faith, arts, culture, entertainment, hotels, sports, and entertainment. And it was an interesting discussion we had across the board, but it really has required many to, if all possible, to rethink their business models, and some have certainly gone virtual, and we can talk a lot about that virtual platform. That will certainly be an interim solution, but I think you'll see it also as a more permanent solution that's here to stay, and you'll see more hybrid events in the future. But it's been devastating to our industry. We've had a significant amount of closures for venues that still really aren't open, where it's not really feasible to operate such a lower capacity. And then we probably have seen hotels operating around the 10 to 15% capacity, as well as our restaurants. And so it's been really devastating for the industry. And for many who know, Washington, D.C., really was probably the hotels and restaurants were the leading industries, as well as all entertainment venues for our sector only behind the federal government. So it's been devastating, but we will survive one way or the other.
Wow. And there you have it.
So let me ask you though, Wayne, as an entertainer, with how many years in the game? Actually, 30 with Spur.
30
years with Spur of the Moment. How did this affect your psyche, not being able to perform and lend your gift to the world the way that you've done for all these years?
So initially, it wore on me to think that I wasn't going to be able to perform or get out and travel. One of the things we had just come back from a cruise and that I music directed, Capital Jazz Super Cruise, that I was a musical director, and then we had just gone to the Grammys. I sat on the board of the Grammys, and I came back, and this happened, and it started to get tight. And between worrying about our parents and worrying about ourselves, it was scary. But to think that you never really thought past, you're not going to work. Mm-hmm. And when it started, I'll tell you how God is. God is amazing, because right when at the time it started to get tight and they started to shut down everything, we created this show.
Yeah. So
here's the deal. I tell people this. I'm a creator. So if I believe that God developed me in his image, then my first job is to create. So I'm going to be able to create. That's the first gift. So as a creator, you can create anything. So that means music, video, anything you set your mind to. So I knew I had to create. And so the first act was to create the show. And hence, but I can't tell the world that we have other shows in the mix.
Some other things.
We got some other things in the mix. And so, the blessing is that it really pairs you down. It really wears on people. For your musicians, they are not well. We are not well as musicians. We're not. Even the PPP or the stimulus is not going to hold you throughout the year. And what we do is going to be shut down at some level, until midsummer next year. Well, you'll hear.
Really, who knows when? Yeah.
Who knows when? Hopefully the vaccines work. Mm-hmm. But it's we can't live in a bubble. We can't perform and say everybody come to Florida for a week, and then we're going to get the audience to come for a week and live in a bubble, and then we're going to perform. It can't happen like that. Right. So we are hurting at every level. So it not only affects your touring musician, but it affects your local musician. Your local musician is not well. Check on them. Make sure they have the services that they need to carry forth. Go ahead.
No, I think that's a really good point. So for those of you who have friends and family, colleagues who are musicians, entertainers, creatives, encourage them to do a new thing. Wayne and I we've said this to each other throughout the pandemic. If we haven't met this moment and created something different or learned a new skill or something, you haven't met the moment. This is an opportunity to dig deep and try a new thing. I acknowledge Wayne regularly for the work that he has done around this show. He's had to teach himself, he has a whole new skill set now, an entirely new skill. He done got on my nerves, trust me. He has driven me crazy as co-producer and social media person and all of that. But the way he pushes me, I encourage and invite you to push and encourage and invite your friends, family members who are musicians and creatives to do a new thing. Go live, record yourself, sing a song, write a song, do something that you're not able to do. And not to chase the money, because when you create a thing and it's something that you love, the money comes. Abundance comes. Abundance comes when you're using your gift.
Yeah.
So I could preach about that all night.
Yeah, we won't get preachy on them. So look, some of the favorite things in the entertainment industry were taken from us, but some things were given back to us. And sometimes you got to wonder if really it's for good or just for profit.
Right.
So we talk about the sports industry. Mm-hmm. And so Mel wanted to talk about, she was affected by a child she had read who had lost his parents, both parents to COVID in the Georgia area. And he was playing football and they wondered how they got COVID. He wondered how they got COVID. Not understanding the disease,
right?
He could be a carrier, and hopefully he wasn't, and could have infected his whole family. But we had a great panel of the athletic director for the city of Atlanta, Jasper, and we had Coach Kevin Brodus from Morgan State University, go HBCUs, and then we had athletic director that was former the Army, U.S. Army Academy, and the University of Maryland and the University of California, Northridge, Kevin Anderson. And he spoke to testing and just what's going on in college sports. So we're going to get this on now.
Is for Kevin Anderson. If a vaccine comes out, would it be something that you think would be required of student athletes to take to be able to resume play in some of the leagues that have chosen to sit out for now?
Yes, Dr. Clarke. I think that, once a vaccine comes out and it's available, I think that that's part of how we address the issues that we're talking about tonight and how we can move forward and how we could assume play again. I want to go back, if I may, just briefly and talk about something that Coach Kevin came up with. This is beyond the money. It's become political. And our leadership and the president of the United States went and talked to the commissioner of the Big Ten about starting and resuming play. And if you look at it, he didn't go to the Pac-12. He didn't address other people. He was looking and trying to make a political point out of this because of the swing states that the Big Ten represents when you talk about Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. So, and here's something that a leader who hasn't led because he does not wear a mask. He has people congregate without wearing masks, and it's not safe. So, this goes even much further than the money and everything else of this. And it's a sad state because it sends a different message to those people that we're trying to prevent have exposure to this. And so it creates all these mixed messages.
Whoa. And
Wow.
In every sector of American life, he has touched every sector of American life
much
through mismanagement.
Yeah.
We want to follow that point because we're going to wrap up shortly.
Yeah.
But, one of the great things about Dr. Mel is other people throughout the world and throughout the industry have recognized her. And did I say her book, Excuse Me, Doctor? Did I get that on before?
You did, but get it again.
Look at the rolling tape there, y'all. Excuse Me, Doctor, I've got what? Go get that book.
It's Excuse Me, Doctor, I've got what?
That's it. You said it right. And so at every sector, people have noticed Dr. Melissa Clarke. And one of those people is a DJ. Well, he's not a DJ. That's so bad. He's a radio personality.
He is a radio personality.
He's a movie producer and director. And people don't know that about him. And he was also an artist at one point in his life. Russ Parr, she appears syndicated on his show weekly. And he came on the show and he had a word. And so we're going to get to Russ Parr And this was on the government show, right?
Yes.
LILA?
Trusting the government.
Trusting the
or
government.
distrust of the government. Yeah.
One and two things.
Yeah.
Mixed messages. Okay. Here's Russ Parr on trusting or distrusting the government.
Of saying it's a missed opportunity. Russ, I just want to move to you. You have a huge audience. And, I'm so impressed when I listen to you because it sounds like you're very much in touch with your audience and what they're thinking, and you're able to address a lot of what their concerns are. What was your initial reaction when you realized that this misinformation was coming down the pike and there were these changing facts? How have you adjusted how you've dealt with that with your audience who listens to you and trusts you?
Well, one of the first things we did is we got you on the show, which really helps because you're one of the leading voices out here. The other thing is that, I hate to make it political, but we have no choice but to do that. The fact that we have a president who has reckless disregard for the American lives, that look to him for leadership. And nobody really wants to say it, but we have a lot of our CDC, the FDA, and Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, all of them are being compromised. Their reputations are being compromised. And that's why we're getting disinformation, because at the end of the day, there is an agenda. The agenda for the president of the United States is to get reelected. The problem that we have is that we don't know what to believe. 1 minute, the CDC puts out some guidelines, and then they pull it back after the president is briefed on, here's what they said, because he doesn't understand what was put out. What happens is it's like, hey, listen, this is going against what we're pushing. So therefore, we have all this confusion, and everybody is scared. Everybody that I talk to that calls my show are just frightened because we don't know who to believe. So we're sitting here like sitting ducks, like guinea pigs. And like Carrie said, we may have a vaccine that nobody is going to take because we don't trust it. Warp speed means it was done quickly, which means that there could be some efficacy problems. Do we want to be Tuskegee Airmen? I mean, do we want to go through this? The basically being guinea pigs, and that's the problem that we have, is that we have so many people that are sitting here. We want to believe and trust our government, but I listen to one person. That's Dr. Fauci. He's the only one that's been credible. He's the only one that I feel that has not been compromised. Dr. Birx, even though she's coming around now because they have this nut up in the White House that Trump found on Fox News, and he liked the way he looked, and he has his hair and the whole nine. Yeah. And today, you heard about Dr. Redfield from the CDC was on an airplane. Yeah. This guy is wrong about everything.
Yeah.
Wow. Russ is so passionate. He's so passionate about everything.
Russ. Out of control, Russ. You were out of control, brother. We appreciate you so much. We appreciate you so much. Look, we're rolling down. So look, here's the word from Dr. Clarke. The next words you hear are from Dr. Clarke. We're going to be overtime, but we're the producers, so we can go overtime, and we'll cut it down in the mix. So here's Dr. Melissa Clarke. Excuse me, doctor. This is her take on, there were a big vaccine release today, right? Or
yeah. Well, some information about it. Yeah.
Press release. This is Dr. Clarke's. Go call people. Go call people because you want to see this right now. This is Dr. Clarke talking about the press release for the vaccine. All right, here we go.
Hi, Be Health Empowered family. This is Dr. Melissa Clarke. I know I've been gone for a couple of weeks, and technically I'm still on hiatus, but I had to be with you this evening because of the huge news that we heard from Pfizer, the drug company, today about the potential release of its COVID-19 vaccine. So I really wanted to just help everybody put it into perspective because, the news media has been running with it. The stock market is off the chain. But what does it really mean? Okay, so this is the deal. So they have found in about the 44,000 participants in their trial to date that in the control group versus the group that got the real vaccine, there were 90% fewer cases in the group that got the vaccine of COVID-19, meaning it's 90% effective. Now, that's great news, right? However, what we have to keep in mind is they have not yet reported on the safety data. We do know that the safety of the vaccine, they have to observe people for a total of 2 months after they receive their second dose, because this is a 2-dose vaccine situation. So therefore, those 2 months for that half of their volunteers will be up next week. So we'll see that first half of the safety data. Remember, that's only going to be about 22,000 people. So that's important to keep in mind. We also don't know the racial and ethnic breakdown. They say that there's 42% worldwide ethnic diversity, and in the United States, 30%. What does that really mean? How many Black people, how many Latino people, how many elderly people, how many people with underlying chronic disease are in these various groups? Those questions need to be asked. Does the vaccine actually keep you from getting severe COVID disease? We don't know that. So essentially, the information that they've released is incomplete. It's basically like a press release. It has not been reviewed by peers, by other scientists, and it has not been obviously submitted to the FDA yet, which probably won't come until December. However, it's good news up front. Still a lot of things need to be answered, and even if it does get approved, don't expect that doses will roll out until at least June for the general population. And remember, it's a 2-dose vaccine. Like I said before, you got to take them 3 weeks apart for this particular vaccine. And of course, we're still waiting for the other companies that are developing vaccines to get to this point. But it's good news out the gate, but keep in mind there are all these other steps that still need to follow. So enjoy this best of episode, and until I see you again live, be wise, be well, and be health empowered.
Wow.
Yay, Dr. Mel.
Dr. Mel.
Yay.
Dr. Mel, thank you for keeping us up on everything. So look, our time has come to a close.
Mm-hmm.
It's
been great, though.
It's been cool. I will pull my ear like Carol Burnett.
Like Carol Burnett?
Yeah, but we can't pull a headphone. Might jump
right.
out. Thanks to that last person for jumping in and out. It was like 18 and now. But look, for LILA Mays, I'm Wayne Bruce, and we are, for Dr. Melissa Clarke, we make up the producing team for Excuse Me, Doctor. She'll be back soon. We want to thank all the guests who have been on and all the clips we showed today.
Thank you to all of you. Thank
Jeff
you.
Hayden, Wayne Turnage, Eric Stern.
Listen, this ain't no peony show. Like, we got some real folks on this show.
Kevin
okay?
Anderson, Russ
Like,
Parr.
what?
Wait till I come back with the other clips of like Will Downing and
Right.
Wow, and Mesa. And thank you so much, Janice Price. We appreciate you for doing that. So we've had Kevin Anderson on today, Russ Parr, Greg Odell, Wayne Turnage, Eric Stern, Jeff Hayden. I mean, it's been a plethora of people. It's been a whole lot of people. And you. And so we also want to shout out everybody who stayed on and listened to us.
Yes, thank you.
Ramble on. If I could call y'all all by name, I would. I could, but I'm just going to say this. Like she would say it. Be wise, be well, and be health empowered.
Be health empowered.
All right? Till we see each other again. Bye-bye.
Bye.